Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely wild, the epic, centuries-long global revolution of the tomato. I mean, we completely take this red fruit for granted today, but its story? It's like a giant puzzle. It's this incredible saga of ancient Aztec botany, perilous transatlantic voyages, and honestly, a shocking amount of scientific panic over what is now literally the most ubiquitous ingredient in our kitchens.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to just imagine walking into a grocery store completely void of all these modern culinary staples. No ketchup, no pizza, no pasta sauce, no salsa, no tomato soup. It's kind of hard to fathom, right? But the foundational foods of our modern diet are incredibly recent culinary inventions. Without the tomato, global comfort food as we know it simply wouldn't exist. Now contrast our tomato-filled modern lives with what things looked like just 500 years ago. Back then, half the globe had this massive culinary blind spot. To billions of people's ancestors across Europe, Asia, and Africa, this bright red fruit was completely unknown. They had never even seen one.
Let's move to M and see how this builds, because the tomato's conquest definitely wasn't an overnight success. We're looking at a biological journey spanning thousands of years. It begins growing wild in the Andes, evolves into a massive agricultural staple in ancient Mexico, and then has this dramatic, world-changing collision with Europe in the 1500s.
Actually, if you stumbled upon the original wild tomatoes in the coastal regions of present-day Peru and Ecuador, you'd probably walk right past them. They didn't look anything like the heavy, bright red slicers we know today. No, they were tiny, yellow, and roughly the size of a cherry.
So how did we get from that to a beefsteak tomato? Well, we owe the modern tomato entirely to indigenous farmers. Over thousands of years, think about that, thousands of years, generations of farmers spent their time carefully domesticating the plant, selectively picking seeds from the most robust wild ones. Season by season, their agricultural ingenuity transformed a tiny yellow berry into a fleshy, flavorful fruit. The real agricultural turning point, though, happened in ancient Mexico. The Aztec civilization cultivated the plant on a massive scale, and they named it sitomatl. Sitomatl. Listen closely, and you can immediately hear the linguistic roots of our modern English word tomato.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how advanced they were. The Aztecs weren't just farming, they were creating high-level cuisine. They traded these tomatoes in bustling local markets and ground them up with local chili peppers and herbs. They were literally enjoying complex, rich tomato sauces centuries before Italy ever did.
And you know, this wasn't just a fun side dish, it was a deeply essential crop. The Aztecs grew this sitomatl right alongside their famous Three Sisters farming system, which, if you remember, is corn, beans, and squash. So the tomato was fully integrated into the brilliant, highly efficient community agriculture of their society. Then, history shifts dramatically. When Spanish explorers arrived in the Americas in the early 1500s, they were hunting for gold. But what they actually stumbled into was a biological wealth that would permanently alter global cuisine forever. Alongside the literal gold and silver, they found this incredible array of agricultural treasures entirely alien to Europe. We're talking chocolate, vanilla, potatoes, bell peppers, and of course, the tomato. Realizing the massive potential here, they packed these strange new seeds for the long voyage back across the Atlantic Ocean. You'd think the explorers expected a massive culinary triumph back home, right? A real game changer. Instead, this vibrant import faced a harsh, immediate rejection. The tomato basically became Europe's most deeply misunderstood plant. A total cultural failure right out of the gate. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that Europeans simply didn't embrace it at all. While they admired the bright red fruit visually, historical records show it was viewed with deep, deep suspicion. When it came to actually eating it, they completely refused. This hesitation actually spiraled into a full-blown European tomato panic. For generations, they kept it strictly in the garden as a pretty ornamental plant. If an aristocrat fell ill, who do you think they blamed? Yep, the strange red fruit. Many genuinely believed taking a single bite of a tomato would be their absolute last.
So the crucial point is,
This terror actually stemmed from scientific classification. You see, the tomato belongs to the nightshade family. Europeans already had native nightshades, and they knew for a fact those plants were highly toxic and deadly. Seeing the physical similarities, they made the logical but entirely incorrect assumption that the tomato was a killer. It's wild to think about. A fruit meticulously cultivated by indigenous farmers for thousands of years, shipped across an ocean, only to be locked out of the kitchen for generations out of pure botanical terror. So how did a fruit surrounded by such intense fear eventually break the barrier to conquer the world? Well, it certainly makes you look at your next slice of pizza in a whole new light, doesn't it?